Hello everyone, Erin here, and I wanted to talk about my top 5 choices for studying the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. This is a text I've been studying for at least 10 years, and it's a text that just keeps revealing itself as you continue on the path of yoga. So my first pick is actually one that I used just my last year of yoga teacher trainings, and it is by Kelly DiNardo and Amy Pierce Hayden, Living the Sutras. The reason I like this one is because it is very easy to break down, digestible, which a lot of times these really deep, profound, spiritual little aphorisms, it's helpful when it's presented in simple language. So my students really love this one. My vegan beef with it is that it stops, I think, at 3.3 when we start getting into the Yoga Cities, which is the Yoga Superpowers. So this is a great book. If you're into the Yoga Sutras, I highly recommend picking it up. So this is my second choice, and this is one that I probably use the most in my yoga teacher trainings. Any yogi is going to be like, oh yeah, that's the one that I have. So it's the translation and commentary by Sri Swami Satchidananda. This is a classic. I love the examples in here, even though they're a little archaic and dated. It's sweet, it's simple, but some of the language, like the translation of Yoga Sutra 1.2, is like cessation of the mind stuff. So what is mind stuff? So some of the language it's so broad and encapsulating that I think it could be a little bit vague, and some of the examples might be a little bit sexist, but it's still like a great wealth of knowledge. If you can look past those things, this would be one that I would recommend to people, like 100%. And my third pick is Edwin Bryant's ginormous breakdown and commentary on the Yoga Sutras. This book is a must for any serious students of yoga, yoga teachers. If you're doing a yoga teacher training, I highly recommend this book. It can seem a little, how do I put it, dry and clinical at certain points, but it's really, the wealth of knowledge is amazing. Edwin Bryant does have a tendency to go down some wormholes, but like if you can hang out there for the ride and kind of ride with him, he has such an interesting, enlightened perspective. And if you go online, he has a lot of YouTube lectures that you can also watch. So Edwin Bryant's Yoga Sutras commentary is one that I would highly recommend for your library. So this one is called Demystifying Patanjali. And this one is presented by Swami Kriyananda. So she is a yogic nun, and she is very sweet and entertaining. She actually has a podcast available on iTunes and probably Google Play if you look it up. She's very charming, very sweet, and she has a very interesting perspective, and she is a woman. So I really appreciate her commentary. Sometimes I find that because she is a yogic nun and her life is very pure, sometimes her examples are a little bit hard to relate to, but let me share one real quick. She was walking with her yogic master down the road, and she talked about how she had made a mistake and she was beating herself up in front of him. And he said, "How egoic of you. How egoic to think that you are so perfect that you're not afforded a mistake." That is one of the gem examples in this book. There's more, and I really appreciate her perspective. So if you want a different view on Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, I wouldn't use this as a primary text, but it's really refreshing and interesting perspective. And this is the last video of my top 5 picks for studies of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. So this one I've used for a couple of my yoga teacher trainings, and it is The Essence of Yoga, Reflections on the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali by Bernard Bouanchad. And what I really love about this book, besides the commentary, I think it's a blend of like intellectual wisdom from the body as well as the mind, which sometimes it's hard to find like both, but certainly studies of sacred scripture require not just the manas, which is like the mind stuff, but also the buddhi, which is the inner intellect coming together. And I think that he does an amazing job of that in this book. But what I really love about it is there's lots of prompts to apply each of the sutras to your life. And it's also great if you are running a teacher training that you can say, hey, answer these like 5 questions after sutras 2.3 to 2.6. And it really starts some great discussions for like a satsang. So this is my top pick for Yoga Sutra studies, and it goes all the way through the first book, Samadhi Pada, all the way to Kaivalya Pada, which is pretty refreshing. Not all the books go all the way to the 4th. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this little series, and I hope you have a fantastic day and study on. Namaste.